Hey folks, John here, Old Hickory Forge. Welcome back. So, this is the first and only sword I have ever made. I based it loosely off of historical Viking swords, loosely. So if you're a huge history buff, don't attack me in the comments. But there's nothing wrong with it, but there's a few things that I've learned that I feel like I could produce a better sword. This blade's about 26 inches. I would like one about 28 to 30 inches. The handle, historically Viking swords were made to be used with one hand, so I made this one fit my hand really, really snugly. Looking back, that was kind of a mistake, because when I swing the sword and stuff, see the pommel can get in the way of my wrist. So I'm going to extend the length of the handle just a little bit by about an inch or so it's still a one-handed sword, but it'll give me a little more mobility. It's also a little too heavy. Blade's a little too thick. It's almost a 1/4 inch thick here at the outsides of the fullers, which is way too much. The fuller's not wide enough. I forged in this fuller. I'm going to be grinding in the fuller on this one. So, some people say you cheat by not forging in the fuller, but I feel like I'll be able to get a cleaner, better result out of that than I will forging in the fuller, and it'll be faster. So, anyway, that's what we got going on. Here's what we're starting with. Chunk of 5160 cut off at 30 inches. That should give me plenty of material. What we're going to do is isolate 3 inches or so, maybe 4 inches, and pull out about 8 inches of tang out of that. Form a point, forge in the distal taper, and try to get the blade length we're looking for, and then we'll go ahead and forge in the bevels. And like I said, we're going to be grinding in the fuller, so let's get started. So, I've just gone to the edge of the anvil and put a mark where 4 inches is, and now I'll chuck it up with my guillotine tool with a set of fullering dies. Well, this is going to isolate the material we're going to make into our tang. Got my material isolated, now it's time to forge this out into a tang. So, nothing to it really. Using the horn speeds things up a good bit when drawing out. So, just keeping at it. So, here's the tang after being forged out. I've got about 8.5 inches or so. Right now it's both longer, wider, and thicker than I needed. It's just roughly to the front of the dimensions. That'll give me plenty of material to play with during the fit up. I'm going to go ahead and let this cool off so I can hold it by this end, and I'll start working on the point. Alright, we got the other end of our steel hot. It's time to start working on that point. Forging out a two-sided point on a big piece of stock like this can take a little bit of doing. But just keep at it, you'll have forged out before you know it. What I'm doing now is forging in the distal taper of the sword. I've already taken a couple of heats so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. You can see how the metal's much thinner up here. What I'm trying to do is slowly taper it back towards the handle. And of course I'm using the horn anvil for this because it's faster. But the blade needs to be both the thinnest and the narrowest at the tip. And you want to take the sword in a good bit past its finished dimensions, because once you forge in the bevels, you're going to gain a good bit more width. You would take it in even further if you were forging in the fuller, and because I'm grinding in the fuller, I'm not worried about that. So, like I said, just slowly carry that taper back towards the handle. Keep it nice and even as you go. I'll switch to the flat of the anvil because there's not as much work to do back here towards the hilt. But it's coming along. Right now, back here at the shoulder is 2 inches wide. I want to take that into about 1.5 inches, and then once it's beveled again, it should come out to about 2 inches or so. But we're starting to look like a sword, though. We've got our distal taper forged in on our horizontal plane. Next thing I'm going to do is do the exact same thing on the vertical plane. The vertical plane of the sword, I don't know if this is the correct term, it's just what I've always called it, is the side that's going to become the cutting edge. And as you can see, we're thinner down there towards the hilt, and we're thicker up here towards the tip because this metal's been upset more, it's thicker. That's the opposite of what we need. So what we need to do now is go back to the horn of the anvil and pull all this out this way to thin it down to get closer to our final dimensions before we can forge in our bevels. So that's what's happening. So, same thing as before, we're trying to stretch the metal out. We're just working on the different plane of the metal now. So, just like we did with the width taper, you're just going to slowly work your way back towards the edge, tapering out the thickness. So, blade's coming along. It's actually kind of hard to get the whole thing in frame, but as you can see, it tapers from about 1/4 inch thick here at the where the hilt's going to be, to just under 3/16 of an inch there at the tip. It's actually going to taper more than that after the grind. I'm just being sure to leave myself enough meat to get all the hammer marks after I do the bevels. But, you know, that's the distal tapers on both the horizontal and vertical planes are arguably the most important parts of forging a sword. If a sword isn't distally tapered, it's not going to be balanced well, and you might as well just be swinging around a crowbar. But next thing we're going to do is get the bevels forged on this baby. So, now it's time to bevel this thing. Nothing to it really. No different than forging in a regular knife bevel. It's just going to be different on both sides. So I like to work one a little bit, turn it over, work the other. So, just keeping at it. Forging the bevels is actually probably my favorite part of forging the whole sword. You really start to see it take shape. It goes from looking like a sword blank to a sword. Or looking like a sword, I should say. The technique I'm finding the best is working for me is picking a section of about 4 inches, going at it hard once with the rounder, and then going over it again from the opposite side with the dog's head. A little gentler just to smooth everything up, make it all nice and even. Alright, bevels are done. Now it's just a matter of taking a few heats, trying to bring everything into line, get everything centered and straight and all that jazz. Getting the sword ready for the grinder. So, here we go. Sorry to get the whole thing in frame, but the blade's sitting at 31.5 inches. I'll probably lose a little bit of that when I square up the shoulders and true up the pointer. It'll probably come out about 30, which is the high end of what I was looking for, but much larger than my first sword, obviously. So, but it's all going pretty well. I've got it reasonably straight. Edge is a little wavy, but I left it thick enough to where I can grind all that out. It's within the realms of what can reasonably be fixed on the grinder. So I'm probably going to go ahead and call it for this video because it's getting kind of long and I like to keep my videos short and sweet. Next episode will probably be the rough grind and the fittings, and then I'll probably do another on the heat treat, the temper, and the final assembly. So there you go. Forging a sword by hand is it's a bit of an undertaking, but it can certainly be done. Just be prepared to maybe get a couple blisters and get a good pump in your hammer arm. Y'all take care.